Hey, it looks stunning. Good morning. I don't. I've done did it to me again. I don't know why they keep adjusting my microphone. I'm getting feedback somewhere. Go. All right, now I think we got everything. Oh, I forgot those other two. Up there. I might be getting feedback a little bit until things get straight on Twitch. There we go. Got one more countdown going. There we go. Now we're live. All right. Thank you for joining me. I am so grateful you're here. Be sure to share with others before we get started. While we're listening to the intro music, take a moment to share with others, and I'll be right back. I am so grateful that you're here. I'm wondering where Butter is, though. I hope he's okay. I knew he was going to be off a couple of weeks, but I didn't know how long. All right, well, let's get started. Let's start with a joke. Whenever we don't know what we're doing, we go back to format. Bravo says, my wife accused me of stealing her thesaurus. Not only was I shocked, but I was appalled, aghast, and dismayed. Bewildered. I won't do it. I was going to go through the entire alphabet, but we've got a rather long section today. And spoiler alert, it is about the Queen of Sheba going to meet Solomon, and then she's so amazed by everything, she breaks into song. Speaking of which, if you guys hung out on Saturday night, you would have seen the movie Duck Soup with us. It was a surprise, so I wouldn't expect anybody to be here, but we watched Duck Soup. We wanted to put it on Rumble because you never know when somebody's going to alter it, because it's such a goofy movie that somebody's bound to be offended by it. It's not the Marx Brothers' best movie, but it ranks up there. I think A Night in Casablanca and A Night at the Opera are better movies, and we'll be watching those soon. But somebody had mentioned the Marx Brothers Saturday, and I was like, I gotta see a Marx Brothers movie. And I figured, why not share it with everybody? The only dialogue you'll hear from me is just laughter. Everybody else was talking in chat, so you won't see them. You won't see their conversation, because Rumble. One thing about Rumble is when you put something in chat, it doesn't stay. You want a comment to be permanent, you put it in a comment. Once the live feed's done, the Rumble chat goes away, and as far as I know, you don't get to see it ever again. Now, it's probably stored on a computer somewhere, but it doesn't get rebroadcast. So don't say anything you don't want to be repeated. But Dan's here with 2 Trumps and 3 honeycomb cereals. No, those must be cookies, chocolate chip cookies. And that does my heart good to see Dan joining us. Now, I forgot to mention last week. We see these places like New York City go crazy, and Virginia's losing its mind, and New Jersey, and then we get that victory. Nancy Pelosi is not running for another term. I guess she made enough money, or she's going to open up her own brokerage. But her stock investments were so that's the thing about California. These politicians don't know how to be subtle about it. You look at Dan Crenshaw and how much money he has made on these insider stock tradings. But he seems to be subtle about it because he's under the radar. Nobody's talking about the fact that Dan Crenshaw is making buku bucks. I guess it's because he's not as blatant about it as Nancy Pelosi. But also, here in California, Gavin Newsom is so blatantly obvious in his corrupt politics, and nobody's doing anything. The guy passed a law last year. Was it last year? A couple of years ago? Before his re-election. A law that said minimum wage has to be paid X amount of dollars if you work in the restaurant industry, unless you sell bread, and that's because an owner of Panera Bread, an owner of a Panera Bread chain, that's a restaurant here that does sell bread, is a major contributor to his campaign. And so he was like, oh, well, I'll make it so you don't have to pay the minimum wage, but everybody else does. It was absolutely bold-faced, blatant. And everybody re-elected the knucklehead. They're like, oh, we don't care. And Nancy Pelosi is so blatant with her stock trading. I don't care. I'm making money. I don't care. But you know what? It was one of the best trading deals you could get was to do the same trades he did. He would have made 19 times in the last 4 years your initial investment. No, I'm sorry. 190 times. So if you had taken $100, put it in there, and just did the trade she did, you would have had $19,000 today. Now she put 100,000 in, got 19 million, but she turned around and put all that back. The compounding of the interest on that investment, he walked away with, I think, $250 million. It's so much it's hard to say. She doesn't have to care what anybody thinks for the rest of her life. The only problem is she's 84, and so the rest of her life isn't going to be very long. I don't know if she has any children or not, because I don't care about her enough to look that up. I know she's married and her husband's boyfriend got put in jail for attacking him with a hammer. That's about the extent of everything I know about her. Anyway. Oh, Bravo says Crenshaw has been called out on it, and he acted like it was no big deal. Crenshaw is a disgrace to the uniform. Straight up scumbag. The only thing is, I gave him a pass initially because he gave an eye for the country. I'm like, you know what? Okay. But to continue on is like, I don't even know what his voting record is. I hope it's Second Amendment pro, but I have no idea. Dan says brokerage is right. She broke the country. And it is crazy that Martha Stewart did jail time for the same kind of insider trading, and Pelosi walks free. And you know what? Martha Stewart didn't really do the insider trading. And what blows my mind is she was a Democrat, and the Democrats are the ones who put her in jail. She probably said something that upset someone. That's why you don't want to make friends with politicians. Because the moment you go against them, they will bring the house down on you. If they can, they'll make you a scapegoat of everything else. Yeah, Martha Stewart, I think she made like $19,000 on it. It was something piddly. I'm not a Martha Stewart fan by any means. I mean, she hooked up with Snoop Dogg, and she's bringing out wine and cannabis, and yeah, I don't care for her. But it feels like she got railroaded. Anyway, for those that are on EBT, that is getting reestablished. Apparently today are going to get the government back to work. It's been 40 days. We have gone 40 days without a government other than the very, very basics. Number one, think about this. It was 40 days of proof that there's not a whole lot that the government does that we're paying for that it needs to do. National parks were closed. Well, they were actually open, and people were doing things like base jumping off of Yosemite, which is something you're not supposed to be doing. But because they didn't have enough rangers to do that or to enforce that, they were doing it. And there are just a handful of people who can say they climbed Yosemite and base jumped off. I'm not one of them. One thing, I love flying. I love being in helicopters. The one thing I really don't want to ever have to do is jump out of a perfectly good air vehicle of any kind. Because if I'm jumping and relying on a chute, it goes back to my days as a kid when we thought a bed sheet made a good parachute. I don't know how many of you guys did it. I know Dan and I did it at least once. And I remember getting hurt pretty bad because we were like, oh, we didn't get high enough to open the chute, so we got to get higher. And it was high enough that I don't think I broke my leg, but it was high enough that I hurt my leg, and I went, oh, okay, that doesn't work. I don't know if Dan remembers that. He'll have to tell us. But it was a lesson learned. And ever since, I know how to use a chute. I've never used a chute because I hope I never have to. I would love to do that wind turbine thing that's inside a building where you get and you act and it's like you're free falling. I would love to try that sometime. But I know it's expensive, and I know it's more expensive than I would feel comfortable spending. But I'd love to try that sometime. I don't actually ever want to parachute because I have this rule about life. I don't want to ever do anything that an oops might be the end. And oops, we packed your parachute wrong. Sorry. Of course, I'm sure they've never had complaints about their parachute packing. Oh. But the one that does look really cool, but I don't have the guts to do it, is the flight suits. The ones that have the stretching on it so that you can jump and you open them up. You open up your arms and legs and you're flying like a flying squirrel. That looks so cool, but it looks like something I will never want to do. I want to do, but never will do. And now I'm old enough that I can use that as an excuse. I'm too old for that stuff. Are you crazy? I might break something. Bravo says, I was airborne. I was terrified at first, but honestly, it becomes addicting. You know what? The closest I ever got was rappelling out of a helicopter. Back in my day, it was Hueys. Now they use Blackhawks, but back in my day, it was Hueys. And I remember on the ground in the hangar, and we did our practice. We'd get out, we'd step out on the rail, hopped off. You get back up, get on the rail, hop off. Get back up, get on the rail, hop off. We did that until it became second. It was like, I've got it. I know what I'm doing. I get up and I'm 100 feet off the ground. A former ranger went first. He's the anchor on the ground now. We didn't have, I forget. We didn't have slings. What we did is we made a harness out of rope. That was our harness, and it was tied by a former Marine, so it was nice and solid. Smitty. So I hook up. I get to the door. I step down to the rail. I've got my hand behind my back. I'm doing everything as I was taught. And prior to this, I was in the Civil Air Patrol, and we learned to rappel off of buildings and off of mountains. We never did it from a helicopter, though. So I'm sitting there, and I look down, and I freak out. I'm like, ah! My first sergeant is up in that chopper. He's former airborne. I think he was 82nd. But he's like, jump, private. And I look down and go, no. He says, I said, jump, private. And at this point, he is mad because I'm holding up the whole line. And I look and went, no. And he comes at me like he's going to kill me. And it freaked me out. And the reaction was, whoop. You know, the only way away from him was to rappel out. So I rappel out. I get to the ground. That was the best thrill of my life. And I couldn't wait for my second jump. It was so awesome. But I had to get that first jump out of the way. But it was scary. I'd be a little scared today because I don't think my arms can do it. And that's why physical training is so important in the military. Even if you're just a cook, and there's no such thing as just a cook. Even if you're pushing a pencil on a desk, you need to pass the physical training. And there should not be two standards for men and women if they're going to do the same job. And while you're in the military, you are property of Uncle Sam. So you need to do what Uncle Sam requires, or you get out. The only problem with washing out is that you get a general discharge at best. I know a lot of guys in my unit, in my basic training unit, that got medical discharges. Some of them, it was because during high school football, they got knee injuries. And that was a big problem back then. Guys who were blowing out their knee in high school, joining the Army, and then in the middle of boot camp, their knee just gave out altogether. ACL tears and all that stuff. So those guys. Now, I don't know if it was a recruiter who told them, hey, don't worry about it. Don't tell us about your injury or what. But many of those guys got full medical discharge. Of course, it was at buck private pay. So, you know, they're still getting $900 a month. But I'm thinking about one guy, he actually broke his ankle because the drill sergeant was yelling at him in the chow hall, and he got up, put his tray, and the drill sergeant's like, "Private, get outside, double time!" And so he up and runs, and they had just mopped the floor because somebody had spilt something. And he slipped, broke his ankle, and got full medical for that. Got out. The guy really wasn't fit for the military anyway. He was a knucklehead. but neither here nor there. All right. Well, we are done with the Song of Solomon. It's a good thing to read, and a lot of people think that the Song of Solomon inspiration was King Solomon's relationship with the Queen of Sheba. I don't know. I haven't looked into it enough to be able to tell you. They think it, but I haven't heard anything conclusive. So we will let it be a they think it kind of thing. But today we are going to be hearing about the Queen of Sheba, and it is going to be 5 minutes long. So I'm going to remain silent for it, and if I have any comments, it'll be at the end. But let's get started. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for your word. We ask that you would bless it, help us to understand it, and live according to it. Lord, cleanse our hearts and remove our double mind. Because, Lord, we want to please you. Because we know that we can only have good fellowship with you if we please you. But, Lord, we know that it's nothing that we've done that warrants it, because it's all done by Jesus Christ and what he did on the cross and what he did from the grave, rising up the third day. We ask that you bless your word. Help us to share it with others. In this name I pray. Amen. All right. Well, we need to get started. And it is 1 Kings chapter 10. Make there. And I'm on mute.
1 Kings 10. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bare spices, and very much gold, and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king which he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up unto the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, It was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thy acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit, I believed not the word until I came. And mine eyes had seen it, and behold, the half was not told me. Thy wisdom and prosperity exceedeth the fame which I heard. Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighteth in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel for ever. Therefore made he thee king, to do judgment and justice. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and of spices, very great store, and precious stones. There came no more such abundance of spices as these which the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And the navy also of Hiram that brought gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house, harps also, and psalteries for singers. There came no such almug trees, nor were seen unto this day. And King Solomon gave unto the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. So she turned, and went to her own country, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. Beside that he had of the merchantmen, and of the traffic of the spice merchants, and of all the kings of Arabia, and of the governors of the country. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of gold went to one target. And he made 300 shields of beaten gold. 3 pound of gold went to one shield, and the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, The king made a great throne of ivory, and overlaid it with the best gold. The throne had 6 steps, and the top of the throne was round behind, and there were stays on either side on the place of the seat, and 2 lions stood beside the stays, and 12 lions stood there on the one side, and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any kingdom. And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king had at sea a navy of Tarshish, with the navy of Hiram. Once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom. And all the earth sought to Solomon, to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver, and vessels of gold, and garments, and armor, and spices, horses, and mules, a rate year by year. And Solomon gathered together chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, whom he bestowed in the cities for chariots, and with the king at Jerusalem. And the king made silver to be in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars made he to be as the sycamore trees that are in the vale for abundance. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt, and linen yarn. The king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. And a chariot came up and went out of Egypt for 600 shekels of silver, and an horse for 150. And so for all the kings of the Hittites, and for the kings of Syria, did they bring them out by their means.
I wanted to point out something. Now, if any of you are Bible scholars, and I know Dan knows this, but you know the mark of the beast, it is 606. Is it coincidence? I don't know. I'm sure there are Bible scholars who've gotten into this to read this more. You know what? I'm going to take a moment to see what Matthew Henry says. 1 Kings chapter 10. It says Solomon increased his wealth. Silver was nothing accounted of. That means they were so wealthy that they're like, oh, silver, yeah. I pick my teeth with that. We make toothpicks out of it. Such is the nature of worldly wealth. Plenty of it makes it less valuable. Much more should the enjoyment of spiritual riches lessen our esteem for all earthly possessions. If gold in abundance makes silver to be despised, shall not wisdom and grace and foretastes of heaven, which are far better than gold, make gold lightly esteemed? See in Solomon's greatness the performance of God's promise, and let it encourage us to seek first the righteousness of God's kingdom. This was he who tasted all earthly enjoyment, wrote a book to show the vanity of all worldly things, the vexation of spirit that attends them, and the folly of setting our hearts upon them, and to recommend serious godliness as that which will do unspeakably more to make us happy. I'm sorry, my reading's not that great today. My vision's not as good as it should be. That all the wealth and power he was master of, and through the grace of God, it is within our reach. So he doesn't mention the 600 threescore and 6 talents. That is interesting. That he absolutely ignored it. I can't be the first person to have noticed this. But that's the mark of the beast. In the middle of God blessing his kingdom, we see this number appear. And legitimately, we are seeing Solomon, who was given the wisdom of God, a gift beyond all measure. And he turned around and started following after his heart instead of following after God's heart. And we see the corruption that is going to bring. And it comes swiftly. And it's always a hard part for me to read because I see it and I go, oh man, you knuckleheads. But it's going to come. And I'm just bracing for it. Because all the rest of the Old Testament is Israel being punished for their disobedience. And I see the startings of it here. They could have had a kingdom that would have been the admiration and focus of the entire world. They would have had a kingdom that God blessed immensely, but they turned from God. That is one of the reasons why I don't accept the idea that the New Testament replaced the Old Testament. I don't mean it as extreme as what it sounds, but there are people who are like, oh yeah, God's no longer cared about the Jewish people. They were Old Testament. God's done with the Old Testament, and so we're focused on the New Testament, and we'll never have to worry about the Jews ever again. That idea of I will bless them that bless thee and curse them that curse thee, that now belongs to the Christians, not the Jews. The Jews are abandoned by God. There are people who push that. And they think America is the replacement nation. When we are one God, one nation under God, we are blessed beyond measure. And I remember back in the 70s, and especially the 80s, we were focused on a unified country. We celebrated the bicentennial, and the national pride was awesome. And our focus was God. And we were dealing with an energy crunch at that time. But God still blessed immensely. We were dealing with hippies being on drugs, but God still blessed immensely. Because there were people who said, this is one nation under God. But when you look at results like New York and Virginia used to be absolutely a conservative state, and it was guaranteed. But the fact of the matter is, it's only going to be as strong as we are unified. And when people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and all these other guys who are, oh, Israel's bad, you know what? Shut them out. You don't need to listen to them. They're not going to say anything intelligent otherwise. You're not going to miss anything by ignoring them. And when somebody goes, "Oh, did you hear what Nick Fuentes said today?" You go, "No, I don't care. He's an knucklehead." Because, oh, and Candace Owens, ignore what she says. She's not going to say anything intelligent anyway. These people are dividing our country for $1. And that's kind of why I didn't listen to Charlie Kirk. Not because he was divisional, but because the people he would interview were divisional. I was like, I don't need it. Now, he wasn't doing it to promote them. He was doing it because he was showing them for the knuckleheads they are. And I didn't know that at the time. And it really was because all these other people, I didn't want to hear anything else because I was getting tired of it. But we need to not listen to these people. We need to ignore them because all they're doing is division. And the Lord is a Lord of reconciliation and unity behind him. All right. Oh, I forgot to point out. Bravo said we had a colonel break both of his ankles on his last jump at airborne school. Still passed since he did exit the plane, but ouch. You know what? I hope that colonel is okay. But after you break your ankle, after you break any bone in your body, you get pains in those spots that you cannot describe to anybody. I cracked my wrist. About 2 inches up my arm from the joint that connects it to your hand. I got pulled off of a bleacher in high school, fell down on my arm and it hurt, and it was cracked. But even today, when the weather changes, that hurts. It hurts bad. Well, Colonel got his wings, but we should have a broken wings airborne emblem so that we know who. Not because you jump and you broke your leg, because that's going to happen. You do enough jumps, but if that's your only jump, until you get that good jump, you need to have the broken wings. Of course, I'm saying that as recon. I'm not saying that as airborne, so I don't have any authority or anywhere to say, because I probably would break my own whole body. But I love to fly. I really do. And I can't wait till someday I have my own personal body lifting drone. A drone that's big enough that I can get in it, sit in it, and it just flies me here somewhere. And that will be my goal. I'll forget all about wanting to get a 427 Shelby Cobra. I will focus all of my being on getting one of those. And I'll just go for joyrides, power it up and go, okay, where do I want to go today? Oh, I just want to go up and fly around. And that's what I'll do. The only problem is, once they'll start becoming popular, people will no longer be paying a road tax. The government's going to get in the way of advancement because of that. And I will probably have to move, which is okay. Because if I can go to a state where they're like, you know what, have at it. Probably be Texas. That's where I would move. I'd be like, okay, if I could have my personalized helicopter, I'm going there. Now, I would absolutely have to fight the temptation to put a a door gun on it. Sorry. I would absolutely have to fight that temptation. All right, well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. And have a great day. Sorry.